All right, so today we'll be talking about Windows OS security. Because last time we talked about the Kali Linux OS security, so today we're talking about the Windows OS security. So overview of the Windows OS security. Why OS security matters. Operating system is the core software running on every device. Vulnerabilities here can affect everything. So as we all know, operating system is the core software that you use to communicate with your hardware. So any vulnerabilities on your operating system can actually affect everything on your system. Now focus on Windows operating system, widely used in personal business environments, making it a key target for attackers. So most companies actually make use of the Windows operating system. Now, because of this, it actually makes it a key target for attackers. Most attackers want to attack the Windows operating system because that's what most organizations make use of. Now we have the security features. We have the user account control, UAC. We have the Windows Defender. We have the patch management and Windows updates. Then we have best security practices for users. So let's go. So we have the user account control, which is UAC. Now, what is UAC? A security feature that helps prevent unauthorized changes to the operating system. Requires administrator permission to perform tasks requiring higher privileges. Key function protects the system from malware and prevents in. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
I can hear you from here.
Yes,
And
sir.
protects.
We can hear you.
All right. Protects the system from malware and prevents inadvertent system changes. Now, there was somebody who asked this question before that she said she was trying to install an application and it was telling her that you want to make changes to your operating system. Now, this is the function of the UAC, whereby it is only administrative permission that can install some certain applications on your operating system. That is what the UAC is all about. So for you to install some particular softwares, you actually need administrator's privilege. So if someone should open an account for you on his or her Windows system and does not give you administrative privilege, you will not be able to install some certain applications until you are given administrator permission. That is what the user account control. Then how it works, elevation of privileges. UAC prompts users to confirm actions that require admin rights. Example, software installations, changes to settings. Now, as a guest user on a Windows operating system, there are some changes you might not be able to make to the operating system if you don't have administrator privileges. Now, we also have separation of roles. Runs applications in standard user mode by default, even if you are logged in as an admin. So some applications run in standard user mode, even if it's an admin that is actually logged into the operating system. Impacts on security, minimizes risk of accidental or malicious system modifications, helps prevent malware from gaining full control of the system. So some of the advantages of this is it reduces risk of accidentally modifying your system. So not just anybody or anyone that can just modify your system if the person does not have administrative privilege. And it also helps prevent malware from gaining full control of your system. Then we have the importance of enabling UAC, preventing unauthorized access. That is, it protects against malicious softwares installing without user consent. That is, for instance, if an hacker should gain access to your PC now and tries to install a particular application, if the hacker does not have a an administrator privilege, he or she will not be able to install that particular application. Now, limiting damage. Even if a system is compromised, UAC limits the attacker's ability to make system-wide changes because the attacker will not have administrative privilege to make those changes. Then we have critical for networked environments. Now, UAC helps ensure security across multiple devices and users by enforcing control over admin privileges. Now, in organizations, what they do is, in most organizations, you discover that everybody in that organization is using a Windows operating system, and it is being controlled by maybe a group of people or one person. Now, the way it is being done is, if you connect everyone to a particular Windows server, to a server in the organization, now only one PC, which is the admin privilege PC, can actually control everything. The same thing too happens with Kali Linux, whereby everybody will be given their own accounts, but the account is actually being controlled by one PC, which is the person in charge of the server. So all this we are talking about now, all this UAC now we are talking about, anything the person in charge of the Windows of the server has programmed, it will affect every other person. So if any other person is a guest user, all the controls you put on the server will actually affect everyone. So this is also where it is advantageous. Yeah, so we have the Windows Defender. Now, as some of us would know, Windows Defender automatically comes with your Windows operating system. So after the slides, we would look at some of the defenders we have there. So what is Windows Defender? A comprehensive built-in security suite for Windows operating system. Protects against viruses, malware, spyware, and other malicious software. So Windows Defender actually protects your system against viruses. That's why if you are trying to download some flag applications, sometimes your Windows Defender would not allow you to install those particular applications. Now it protects you against malware, spyware. Now what a spyware is a spyware is a virus. For instance, we have an example of a spyware. We have what we call keylogger. Now, what keylogger does is that it records all your keystrokes and sends to the attacker. So it's like it is spying on you. So that is what a spyware is. That's what a spyware is. Then we have purpose, provides real-time protection and continuously monitors for threats without requiring third-party software. So it provides continuous protection because it continuously monitors your operating system. We have the Windows Defender core features. Now, real-time protection, just like we said just now, it gives you real-time protection. Now, threat intelligence uses Microsoft's cloud-based services to detect and respond to threats. Now, it also helps to respond to some certain threats. Then we have firewall and network protection, manages network access and prevents unauthorized access to the system. Now, after the slides, we will actually do some firewall configuration. So you see how firewall configuration actually works. Now, firewall is used to filter packets. I told you that what packets is the way your message is being transferred. It goes in what we call packets. So if you send a WhatsApp message to somebody, the message travels in what we call packets. So firewall is used to filter packets, can be used to filter ports, used to filter IP addresses. You can use it to stop an application from operating on your system. We would look at that. Device health monitoring monitors system performance and warns about security issues. So the Windows Defender helps to monitor system performance, and it also warns you about security issues. If it sees that what you are trying to do is not actually secure, you would see a warning from your Windows Defender telling you that this telling you that what you are trying to do is actually not secure, if you want to continue with it or should block it. Now, smart screen filter helps protect against malicious websites and downloads, warning users about potential harmful content. So it also helps to protect against malicious websites. If you are visiting a website that's very malicious, the Windows Defender could actually block it or give you a warning sign. Now, the key advantages of Windows Defender, we have integration with Windows OS. Seamless integration with Windows means it's less resource intensive and always up to date. Now, because it is integrated with your Windows OS, it will work well with your Windows operating system and it is always up to date. Now, cost effective, free for Windows user, no need for third-party antivirus unless additional layers of protection is required. So once you have Windows installed on your operating system, it comes free with the Windows operating system. You might not need any third-party antivirus unless you require it. We have automatic updates. Automatically updates virus definitions through Windows updates, ensuring protection against new threats. So it also automatically updates virus definitions. When you connect your data to your PC, there are some updates that actually happen in background that you might not really know about. So one of these is the virus definitions. Now we have comprehensive coverage, includes advanced features like ransomware protection and exploits protection. Now, Windows is actually doing a very good job when it comes to their Windows Defender. They are trying, but we all know that no matter how secure the Windows Defender is, hackers can still always gain access to it. So, but the best thing is to always make sure you are not clicking any links that you're not supposed to click or doing any malicious activity that you see it's very suspicious. Now we have patch management. Now, as cybersecurity personnel that we should always know that patch management is very, very, very important. Now, what is meaning of patch management? Now, this is the process of regularly updating software to fix unknown vulnerabilities. Now, when Windows releases a particular patch, it is always advisable to update your operating system. Now, importance, vulnerabilities discovered after software release can be exploited by attackers if not patched. So if a particular vulnerability is not patched on your system, attackers could actually exploit that vulnerability, because one of the reasons why they are releasing new patches is because they've discovered a vulnerability in the previous patch. So that is why they send it out for everybody to patch up their operating system. Now we have type of patches. We have security patches, as in to fix vulnerability in the OS or software. We have enhanced functionality. We have enhanced functionality while often including security improvements. Let me try and check my own. Let me check my own updates if I'm actually up. So as you can see, So as you can see, you can always check your update history to see when last you had an update. Now, I think the last time I had an update was probably today or yesterday. And for you to know what a particular update is all about, you can copy this code here. So you can copy the code, then you head on to your browser and paste the code there. Now you'll be able to see information about what the update is all about. So you can always check the tags to see what the updates is actually all about. Now, as you can see, this is a security patch for security updates. This is a security patch. I think this is what it does here. So you can always check the tags to know what the particular patch is for. So we have Windows updates.
Hello, Anthony. Good evening. Hello, Anthony. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Joseph.
I'm just coming in now because I'm finding it difficult to log in since I was logging. The thing was just rolling, and I've mixed a lot.
And you've not really missed a lot. Don't worry. We've not done our practical yet.
Okay, I don't know what happened. The thing, I was trying to log in. The thing was just rolling. So I had to restart my phone and log in again.
All right, no problem. Just help us mute so that we can continue the class.
Okay.
So we have Windows updates. Why regular updates matter? Attackers constantly look for vulnerabilities in OS. Updates close gaps before they are exploited. I think I explained this previously, that when you don't update your Windows or your operating system, attackers could actually exploit that particular vulnerability in that unpatched Windows. Now we have types of updates. We have cumulative updates, includes all previous updates and fixes. We have the feature updates, introduce new capabilities and security enhancements. We have the security only updates, address critical security vulnerabilities without changing operating system features. So these are the types of updates that we have. Now, managing the Windows updates process. Managing the Windows updates process, automatic versus manual updates. Automatic updates, Windows automatically installs important patches, ensuring up-to-date protection. So you can always set your Windows updates to automatic. So it will automatically install update patches for you, ensuring that you are up to date. I think my settings is on automatic. So once a new update is out, it automatically installs it. Then we have manual updates. Administrators can choose when to install patches, giving them more control, but also requiring constant vigilance. So you can also set it to manual, whereby you'll be the one to decide when you want to install the patches. Now we have best practice. Enable automatic updates for critical patches, but test major updates on non-production machines to avoid potential disruptions. So it's always best to enable automatic updates for critical patches. Now we have the Windows operating system security best practices. Now enable automatic updates. We talked about that one. Now use strong passwords. Always enforce complex unique passwords across all user accounts to minimize the risk of brute force attacks. So I told you in organizations, the Windows operating system is always connected to server so that everybody in the organization can be monitored. Now, we must always enforce complex and unique passwords. I told you a complex password or a unique password must have at least 8 characters, where you have the combination of a capital letter, a small letter, and symbols, numbers and symbols. That is when you can now say you have a strong password. So you always enforce complex and unique passwords amongst across all user accounts. So all the users, you should be able to let them know that your passwords must always be complex so that it should minimize the risk of brute force attacks. Because the way brute force attacks actually work, for instance, there's a particular application used for brute force attack. It is called John the Ripper. Now, the way John the Ripper works is there's something we call dictionary attack. Now, this dictionary attack is a situation whereby there's a dictionary full of possible passwords that you could ever have imagined or that a few people would have used in the past. So it might be millions of passwords. So what they will just do with the John the Ripper is that to brute force your account, they will run the dictionary attack through that particular account. It might even take, sometimes it takes days and weeks for it to get the right password. But at the end of the day, it might end up getting the right password if you don't use a very strong password. And one of the ways they actually mitigate against this is that is why when you want to log into maybe your bank account or any account that you have, you discover that after 4 or 5 wrong passwords, you will get logged out or your account will get logged. Now, this is one of the mitigations against brute force attack, because sometimes brute force attacks will run through about hundreds of passwords. So if your account is not being set to get logged after 4 or 5 passwords, an attacker could actually exploit that kind of vulnerability also. Now, disable unnecessary services. Turn off services that are not being used. Example, remote desktop, if not needed. We say remote desktop uses ports, that's RDP, uses ports 3389. So those kind of services should be turned off if they are not needed, which reduces attack surfaces. All right. So best practices part 2. We have review user accounts. Regularly audit user accounts and ensure that only authorized users have access to sensitive areas of the operating system. Now, we must actually, in an organization, there must be regular audits on user accounts, whereby you audit the accounts and see whether only authorized users actually have access to sensitive areas in the operating system, and not just anyhow person or anybody just has access to the sensitive areas of the operating system, whereby they can easily change any settings and it will affect everyone, or it will affect the organization at large. Now we have regular backups. Schedule backups for critical data to prevent data loss in the event of ransomware attack or hardware failure. So always schedule backups whereby you have an external hard disk whereby all your important data are being saved in. Now, after you've saved the important data there, you would now be you'll be doing regular checks on the backup to make sure that it is still working. So you don't just back up your data and just leave it and feel like maybe anytime when you have data loss, you can just run back to it. You might get back to it and discover that the data has already been damaged. So you always have to check the backups regularly also. Now use multi-factor authentication. This adds extra layer of security beyond passwords, helps prevent unauthorized access. So multi-factor authentication is a situation whereby you have your password to log in. After inputting your right password, it will still prompt you, probably send you an OTP, or you use an authenticator, probably an Android, a Google authenticator, or you can use a Microsoft authenticator. Now you use the authenticator before you can actually log in into your device. That's what we know as multi-factor authentication. Now, conclusion, user account control and Windows Defender, critical components in defending against malware and unauthorized changes. Now, we talked about patch management, key to preventing known vulnerabilities from being exploited. Then security best practices, always update regularly, back up and use strong authentication. Then provide robust defenses against modern threats. So let's go into some practicals. Let me show you how the firewall actually blocks some certain. Hope you guys can still hear me, right?
Yes.
All right. So go to your search for firewall. Yeah, I have my Windows firewall here. So you go to your Windows firewall. Then you go to advanced settings. Now this place is actually very sensitive. So the first thing you might actually do is you go to action, then you export the policies that you have there before. Let me say in case. So you export this so that if you make any changes and your system starts malfunctioning, you'll be able to go back here. Then you import that particular policy or you restore default policy. So now here we have inbound rules and outbound rules. Now what inbound rules does is that inbound rules helps you to filter any network activity that wants to come into your system or want to come into your PC. That is what inbound rules works for. Then we have outbound rules. Now, this is anything that you want to send outside the organization or anything that you want, probably you want to browse the internet and you want to visit the internet. So you can actually set outbound rules whereby there are certain sites that your users cannot visit. Now, this particular rules that you can set here, if it is your personal computer, it will only work on your own, it will only be assigned to your personal PC. But in an organization whereby it is connected to a server, any changes you make here will affect everyone. That is why I don't know if you've seen some organizations whereby there are some websites that their users cannot visit. Now, all these things are being set in the firewall. There are some IP addresses that you cannot that cannot come into the organization. There are some IP addresses you cannot visit. There are some ports that you cannot access. Now, this is where these things are being.
Hello, Anthony. Hello?
Who is that?
Anthony, I'm sorry. I missed this. I don't know how you got to this place.
Okay, let me just show you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So you go to your search, you just search for firewall. Now you see the Windows firewall here, Windows Defender firewall. So when you open it, you go to advanced settings. Yeah, you go to advanced settings. So that is what So advanced settings, then that's when you have this. So I was talking about the inbound and outbound rules. So this is very, very important in an organization. Firewall filtering, whereby you filter things that you don't want the organization to be able to, the users in the organization to be able to access, so that they won't access malicious or download malicious documents into the organization. So let's try outbound rules. So if you go to outbound rules, that is what we want to try now is anything, anywhere we want to visit, we want to be able to control or filter where we want to visit. So you go to new rule. Now when you go to new rule, it gives you different types of rule you want to create. Now this program has to do with a particular application on your system that you don't want to keep operating. Now if you click on next, it will tell you to browse to the parts of the particular program that you want to stop from operating on the system. Now, if this is also done in a server-based Windows system, it would affect every user. So if you set a particular application or block a particular access to a particular application, nobody will be able to use that application in that organization. But today we will be blocking ports. So let's try blocking ports. Okay, let's use TCP. I think I explained TCP and UDP to, you remember explaining TCP and UDP. So let's block ports in TCP. So let me block ports. Which ports can I block now? If I block port 443, we are using 443 to communicate now, so you will not even hear me again. So let me block port 80. Does anybody have a vulnerable website you can actually visit, or an HTTP site?
Test PHP.
Okay, let me just, when we get there. So you click on next. Click on next. Then all connection. You can also allow connection if it's secure. You can customize that. Well, now I want to block all connection. So next. So domain, private and public. Yeah, next. Then let's name it. So block ports 80. So blocking all ports 80 traffic. All right. So finish. So now let's try that. So what did you call this site? Tests.
Test PHP.
Okay. I think this is right. So let's see if it will work.
Yes.
It's working now. What's the problem?
You did not block. You allow all connection. I was looking at your
Okay.
configuration that time.
Wait. Let me see. Okay, so let's say, yeah. Okay, allow connection. Okay, block connection. Yeah, that's true. So apply. Okay. So let's try it again. So as you can see now, you see that because HTTP uses port 80. So any HTTP website, you will not be able to visit that website if you set that kind of permission. So imagine this is a Windows connected to a server in an organization. If I set this particular rule, it will affect all the users in that organization. They will not be able to visit any website that is HTTP that uses port 80. We can also block port 21. Port 21, that is for file transfer, whereby you want to download files from the internet. They will not also be able to download those particular files. I believe you guys can understand that. So if I want to disable this, I can actually disable this rule and I could delete it. So if I disable it now, we should have access. Do you understand that now? So that is how firewall filtering works. So you can check other rules, but be careful on the kind of rule that you block, and make sure that you first export. I told you to make sure you export your policies first before you do an undo, so that you don't can scatter the head of your network. So you can also block programs. I think I said that on the other time. You can block programs also. All right, so you could explore this and see how you can. So the same thing goes for inbound rules also. You can also block connections that are coming into your system. Probably you don't want to allow a particular connection into your system. You can actually block it from here also. So that is what we have for today.